Yo, welcome back guys. Wanted to make a video about how. Firstly, I want to say thanks for the great comments in my previous video. I just kind of put that together quickly and it actually took me a few tries. I did 3 or 4 takes of that video, and the first one went very well, and it was actually longer and it covered more things, but the audio didn't record. So I was very angry. And then I carried on recording and eventually I got something that I liked. So I'm pleased with the response to that. I'm going to make some more of those because I can break down quite a few singers in exactly that way, and I can do them exactly correctly and show you exactly what's happening. Now, one thing that comes up is how do we do it though, Carl? How do we do it? Because obviously for me, it doesn't seem very difficult for me to do it, so I can demonstrate to you and show you what am I doing. Now, this is the crux of the issue. Is struggling singers out there, they can't squeeze in that way. Let me just repeat that. I've got to emphasize it. The way that I'm squeezing and the thing that I'm doing, that means that I can copy these singers so well, or at least get in the ballpark of showing you guys this is what they're doing and make it very precise for you. The reason I can do that is because I can squeeze in a very specific way that you can't. And that's why you struggle. There are tiny muscles in here that I have wired into my mind, and every time I reinforce that connection, they squeeze in just the right way. Now, for some struggling singers out there, there is no wiring between those muscles and the mind. So when they go up in pitch and they try and get higher, there's nothing there. It's almost as if there is just no concept of how do I get higher, and so there's just push there. For other singers, there might be some of the right kind of squeeze, but there might also be other types of muscles getting involved. And for each singer, it can be very unique. You get some singers like my friend Martin Miller, who start this up and immediately then just know how to squeeze the right way. For whatever reason, they figured it out. I've kind of asked some of these singers questions like, how did you learn to squeeze? When was it? And a lot of the time, they're not really sure. They're just like, well, I kind of just could always do it. So for whatever reason, some of those guys can do it from the get-go. They just know how to squeeze the right way. For the struggling singers though, they just can't do it. There's no squeeze there. And at first, what it will sound like is this. It will kind of just disconnect when you start. It will be like a na 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 na. It will disconnect like that. Now, what people normally do is they start adding something to try and connect. Na 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 na, and it pushes, yeah. Rather than being subtle with it, they're crude with the adjustment. So the reason this right type of squeeze is so key, because if I have na 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 na, if I can get from there to that there is the start of it, believe it or not. All of a sudden, I'm towards my mix, or I'm towards my my belt, or whatever you want to call it. It's connected. It sounds like it leads somewhere. But listen to how I got there. Na 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 na. It's just that. That is the start of the engagement of the right muscles. Na 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 na. It's just that. Na 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 na. It doesn't need to sound pretty either. Doesn't need to sound pretty. It just needs to be the right kind of squeeze. If you can start to find that little bit of pressure, that little bit of kind of on every pitch, you are starting to wire a connection in the mind, a connection between the right muscles in here and the brain, and it is not a cluttered kind of wiring. It's a very clean, efficient kind of wiring because it's connected in the right way. The right muscles are isolated. So that, I call it horizontal squeeze, is really half of singing, at least from a technical perspective. That's basically half of what you got to learn. Now, once you can squeeze, like we went into in that video, you've got to kind of figure out different amounts of squeeze. You've got to be able to take those different levels of squeeze up and down through your range without changing or adjusting them. You've got to have a broad understanding of what you're doing throughout your range, how much squeeze you're engaging, and be in a lot of control of that. And at first it will be wobbly and feel like, how could I ever control that? When you first start engaging these muscles, it will literally feel like what you know. When I tell you what it feel like, the best analogy I can think of is when you see a baby learning to move and walk and pick things. If you put something out to a baby, you know, like you say, take this, and you see their hand, they're like this, they're like, you know, they're like, and then they drop it. Like, it's so clumsy and mechanical and like odd. That's what it feels like when you first learn to squeeze. It's like this. You're like na 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 na, and that might be the first time you've ever squeezed up towards the mid-range there in the right way, and it will feel like, oh, it will feel uncomfortable at first, because if you've never done it, it will be new, and if you've squeezed with other muscles as well on top of that, it will feel like, oh, this feels so vulnerable and awkward, because those other muscles give you a sense of security whilst they compromise the sound. That sense of security is often why we grab with the other muscles. So this is why you can't do it and I can. And a lot of the time when people talk, how do we learn this? The reason exercises are so key is because that little bit of squeeze, that little bit of pressure, the exercises help you to isolate that function and help you to learn it step by step in an uncluttered way. And they give you the best chance of installing good motor skills between the mind and the muscles in here. Good, efficient motor skills is really, from a technical perspective, what we're trying to get you to learn and get better at. These guys that do it easy and natural, like the ones I will bring up in future videos, like Alan Stone, they learnt the motor skills the right way first time, and they've sung a long time, so those motor skills have been, the pathway in their mind is very strong and solid and consistent for them. That allows them to open up, relax, do their thing. So you can't be expecting, for most of you out there who are struggling, you can't be expecting to just, right, if I find this one little thing, then all of a sudden I'm going to sing well. Because of the stuff I've just explained to you in this video, each one of you is going to be a little bit unique in terms of how much you've learned of this, how much you haven't learned, how much clutter's there, how much, if there's no clutter at all. And so you got to think, okay, I got to learn this skill. I don't really know where I'm at, because you won't at first. And once you start figuring out where you're at, you got to learn it in a way that allows you to take baby steps and to make some mistakes and let it be weird and wacky, and just look at it as, I'm learning to walk the right way in an efficient, simple way. One thing I said to a singer recently that's stuck in my mind and I want to just reinforce right now is this. Singing correctly is not hard. I can get somebody to have perfect technique within an hour. Very easy to do. Just step by step, they will get there. They will get to a perfect coordination that is completely clutter-free within an hour. That bit of singing is not hard. What is hard is getting to that perfect coordination quickly, reinforcing it every day until the pathway is so strong in your mind that it's completely reliable, and then you can gain a lot of confidence as a singer. It's the repetition and the the ability to get that coordination super consistent, that's the hard bit. It's not hard to do it right once. It's hard to do it right every single time, because you have to have a very strong, consistent connection between mind and body. And that just takes time to develop and learn. You can't shortcut it. There's no way around developing the right motor skills over a long period of time. That's really the thing that people try and get around, that they can't, especially adult singers. They want to shortcut and get good. They don't realize, A, it's going to take a little bit more time as you're older to develop those motor skills, and B, the more you shortcut that process, the more the end result is compromised. So wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, you've got to accept that's the hard part of singing. It's not getting it right once, it's getting it right every single time. Just like in sport, if you look at basketball shooters, to shoot a basketball is not hard, and to score a basket is not hard. Even to shoot a three-pointer is not hard. Anybody you could get up there, if they shoot 100 three-pointers, most of them, assuming they've got the strength to get the ball far enough to the net, most of them in 100 tries are going to get it once or twice. Yeah? Now, if you want to talk about shooting that same shot and getting 40% of those shots in, that's a completely different proposition. It's why you get, they're called reps in basketball. I mean, we do reps in singing. A lot of the time that's what scales are. But what they do is they sit there, they've got a coach under the basket who collects the ball, passes it back out to them. In fact, no, they sometimes have two people. They have somebody collecting the ball, passing it out to a guy at the side, who then passes it to the player, and they just loop, shot. And they've got 2 or 3 balls going, so they can just rep, shoot, catch, shoot. And they will do that probably 40 minutes, have a break, do another 40 minutes, have a break, and they will be repeating that day in, day out for months and years, in order to get those motor skills super predictable and consistent. And that's how they get to the point where they can shoot and score 40% of those baskets. But it's the reps, it's the work, it's the time that they have to put in. That's the hard bit. It's not scoring a basket from 3-point range. Does that make sense? Anyway, I hope this has enlightened some of you. This stuff really is the core of what singing well is all about. And it's really what I've always been trying to get across to you guys, and what I want to just increasingly get across to people. When we think about technique from this really functional perspective, we can start separating all the bullshit out and putting it aside, and just chipping away at the motor skills, getting them nice and predictable, nice and reliable, showing you what they need to be. And that way you can put in some time, and you can start really understanding where you're at, where you want to get to, how can I get good at this, and you can start answering that question in your mind. And that's really my goal, is to enlighten you guys into, how do I actually do this, how do I get good at this, what is the secret, what is the silver bullet, what is the mystery behind it all. This stuff I've gone through in this video is a lot of the mystery. A lot of the question marks will be answered for people out there, and I will show you in future videos as much as I can how we apply this to singing, how we apply this to exercises, how we kind of sift through all of these problems gradually. When people ask me how I learned it, just to finish up, ultimately I got the Singing Success Program, and I just did it every day for many years, and I didn't do it very well, frankly, for a long time. It took me a long time to get to perfect practice, to where I knew this is clean, completely uncluttered, and this is what's going to lead me to consistent singing. For many years I did it almost right, but it was better than before each month, each year. And so every time I got it a bit better. It was like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back type sensation. But I was just drilling it, seeing what happened. And those reps helped me. They helped me to figure out what was going wrong. B, they helped me to get something that was relatively predictable. I'm somebody that needs a lot of predictability in what I'm doing in order to gain confidence. So eventually I got to the point where I know what I'm doing, but it took time. It took a lot of work. It took, just took time. That's all I can say. When I look back, there's things I could have done to make it quicker, but in a lot of ways, it was just going through the journey. And it's the same journey that everyone else is going through, really, or have gone through. It's just, if you go through it at a young age, you've got more time, you're picking things up quickly, you're less likely to have clutter in what you're doing, you've got a sense of time and distance in front of you, which doesn't make you feel like you're under pressure to get it right quickly. All sorts of things that can help you out. But the main thing for adult learning singers and struggling singers is you've got to give yourself the time to figure this out. And the more you kind of look further ahead, to 10 years, 15 years ahead, and give yourself that space, it's going to be a lot easier to take the small weekly, daily, weekly and monthly steps that you need to in order to get there. Anyway, I'll leave you with that, guys. I hope you have a good weekend, and I'll see you in a bit. Take care. Bye. Thanks for watching this video, guys. If you want my help personally, you can book a one-on-one training session. Drop me a message. My email is in the description. And if you feel like this message was of value, then please feel free to make a donation equal to that value. Again, donation link is in the description. And finally, please share this video with other singers you know. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up. And I will see you in another video. Bye.